so you know up front, I'm not a public speaker. I get very nervous, I'm an introvert. My voice is gonna shake. I'm not gonna cry, and I'm not gonna have a panic attack. Feels like it inside, but I promise you I won't. And I also, unfortunately, have to read this word by word, and I can't kind of come off script. Spent a lot of years in the Central Intelligence Agency. Can't tell you how many years. I had to get my script approved, and they took 5 things out of my script. One was how long I worked there. One was my call sign when I was in the war zone. I mean, it's not like I have a server in my basement or anything. This is not highly classified information. But I just wanted to kind of echo what Gordon said, that yesterday was the 21st anniversary of 9/11. And I want to take a moment and reflect on nearly 3,000 lives that were lost and the heroic efforts of public safety employees and extraordinary Americans on the scene. That day was an example of security threats in action, but also a testament to kindness and humanity that ordinary people are capable of as they come together to serve and to help each other. It was our nation's most traumatic modern day event. Like he said, my name's Lynn. I'm co-founder with Cindy of UGA Parents for Safety and Security and our nonprofit extension, Safety Athens. In regards to safety, we want to inspire you to take action wherever one is at and whatever one can do. If we get in the weeds in our programs, which we are going to, about on and off campus, know that it's really plain and simple. Our goal as a parent working group and as a nonprofit is to reduce risk of trauma from crime, and these goals are nonpartisan. It's something we all share no matter our backgrounds and our experiences, and trauma is the key word threaded throughout the presentation. With our closed UGA parent working group and with our open nonprofit Safety Athens, we fight for a safe zone. It's a complex model that increases campus police jurisdiction, special prosecutor, I say police and the police walk in, special prosecutor within the zone, stronger penalties for certain crimes, block by block ambassadors and escorts. You may have seen our petition recently. A robust safe ride program, blue lights on and off campus, enhanced lighting and cameras, not just for investigation, but also for intervention. Solutions to the influx of homeless into Athens, where there's correlation to crime, strong prosecution of egregious crimes, and other well-researched programs to enhance safety and security on and off campus. UGA, I think they were just out in the press for a research institution. That's wonderful. But the UGA community and Athens deserve cutting-edge safety and security. First, my story, which explains my motivation, and this is where my voice shakes because you guys are the first time I've ever talked to you about my work. Makes me even a little extra nervous. Last year, I retired from the CIA after many years. Some of those years were as a Foreign Service officer, and the majority of my time was as an intelligence officer. I am not a public speaker. I am not an activist. I'm not used to being in the forefront. I haven't been able to, in my career, be out there too politically, as the CIA by nature doesn't permit it. I can vote. And you know, actually, it's a wonderful place to be. As an intelligence officer, it's our mission to collect data and then to present that data to policyholders in an unbiased way so they can make decisions. The CIA is definitely a family community. It's a fraternity like no other. When I told my Italian grandfather, my most important influence, that I was joining the agency when I was 23 years old, which of course he needed to keep to himself, he responded, "You might as well have joined the mafia." This was coming from my grandfather, whose father immigrated here from Italy through Ellis Island, and as my grandfather grew up, was very much plugged into the Youngstown, Steubenville, Ohio mob. Mob Town, USA was my hometown. And my Slovakian grandmother, literally from the boat, born on boat between then Czechoslovakia and Ellis Island. She was a talented violinist and a lady of culture and class. She came from a family with a speakeasy in their basement during Prohibition, but I love that my grandfather was lovingly warning me nonetheless. As a female officer, the CIA gave me opportunities that were limitless. As an officer with severe hearing loss, That increased with more time on airport tarmacs all over the world. Every accommodation was made for my success, even permitting me to operate in a war zone environment for an extended period of time. I didn't make it to the executive level, which is the top 1%, because I chose to balance work and family, and I always wanted to stay a practitioner, always wanted to stay in the game. My kids graduate from high school, and it's time for me to give back to an organization that allowed me to balance work and family for so long. What was I thinking? My kids were off to the University of Georgia, and I found myself going through a grueling retraining process similar to what I did as a young officer at 23. But this time, I'm 55 plus. They didn't make me take out that age. 55 plus. In the room, or at the paramilitary training ground, retooling. Then came the war zone, and time in Central and South Central Asia. I was evacuated from one location, and after a short rest and a long visa process to a closed country at the time due to COVID, I spent 4 months in another godforsaken country where COVID wreaked havoc beyond belief. I never realized that in my experience, I was building up certain traumatic moments and getting used to carrying fear on my back, wondering what could happen at any minute. I'll tell you a funny story. It's funny now anyway. My first night in a war zone, I listened to the in-briefing to the compound. Well, sort of, as I have a hearing loss and my hearing aid batteries were dead after an unbelievably long flight to the theater. I missed the whole part about alarms and what they mean, how to use the radios, and what to do. Plus, I think I got the wrong size armor vest from the armory in the initial check-in. It didn't fit properly, and fit is important. I was so tired. I got to my pod. I was so lucky to have my own pod. This is a really big thing. So I'm on my bed, which I had to stack my suitcases to get up to. Only thing to watch on TV is Bohemian Rhapsody, which is played over and over and over again. And again, there's a smell coming through my tiny bathroom ceiling exhaust fan that's indescribable. I'm there just a few minutes, and then incoming shelling just rocks my world, and to Queen music nonetheless. Mind you, there are no windows. I put on my armored vest that doesn't fit. I drop to the ground on my chest, arms out, and proceed to listen for instructions. My radio tells us to take cover, and this is not a drill. I stay there for a very long time until the all clear is sounded, which took nearly 2 hours. I did cheat at one point when things got quiet and made sure my door was locked, looked at the back of my pod door where alarm instructions are supposed to clearly be provided. I did catch that part in the briefing. I wanted to make sure I was where I was supposed to be, as there would be a check-in procedure after such an incident. My door info just said, if you're having alcohol or marital problems, call the Employee Assistance Program. I sat on my desk chair with my face in my hands and said, God, what the heck did I get myself into? The next day, I reported to my workstation for the first time and was greeted by a security officer. He said, blah, blah, my call sign, which I'm not allowed to tell you. You're the crazy one coming to the theater with a weapons waiver. For some reason, I got out of Glock class. Don't know how I did, I was glad I did. But I was there with a weapons waiver. I said, before we talk about that, what the hell happened last night, and where the heck was my alarm information on the back of my pod door? He said there was a regional cricket game near the compound, and the shelling was celebratory fire. A lot of shells coming over the compound. Seriously? Apparently that goes for weddings too. And about that weapons waiver, I felt it wouldn't be a problem, as I never planned to leave the compound. He laughed, issued me a 3.5-inch blade, and he said, your job is to go outside the compound, drive locals and others, often at the wee hours of the morning in the dark. And it gets dark in the war zone. There's a coverage of black pollution that is built up during the history of the country. Trauma is backing in a small bus to an area that barely fits the bus, while large security contractors sitting in cement boxes take bets on what I'll hit. Trauma is being left alone with a radio and a knife, waiting on certain movements, with jackals lurking and sniffing the tires of my vehicle. I had never seen a jackal in my life. I've always emphasized to my kids to always lock doors. War zones are the same. And the funny part, I could never hear the radios for check-ins, and I used to practice with my 3.5-inch blade with a little spider cut up on the handle with stabbing up and stabbing down. I had no idea how to really use it, if I had to. I did not have a knife class in any of my retooling. My kids figured out where I worked in their early teens. One morning at the breakfast table, my son asked me very quietly, under his breath, if I was a spy. He may have actually just been 12, and this was after a night at my boss's holiday party where one of our officers apparently said too much. Nicholas, now a graduate at UGA, used to text me while I was in the war zone and call me warrior. That sustained me. My spy kids and spouse carried their worry alone and never exposed what I did for a living. Experiencing incoming shelling my first night in a war zone was traumatic, but not as traumatic as the separation from my family. I've had the highs of supporting presidents and first ladies, hobnobbing with Shirley Temple Black, then ambassador to then Czechoslovakia. Some may not even know who that is. Tells you how little I am. Walked alongside Winston Churchill Jr. and Warren Christopher with French snipers on roofs while they loaded Pamela Harriman. Pamela Harriman was the ambassador to Paris while I was there. She passed away. They loaded her casket onto a dedicated US flight for her funeral. To sitting on Bill Clinton's luggage while security dogs did their thing and refused my pic with him in the ambassador residence library. To having 10 minutes alone talking to a hero of mine, Walter Cronkite. Hillary Clinton once shouted obscenities at me with out of control crowd when she exited a hotel. It was really fun to tell her that the crowd was there for the Spice Girls. They were just staying at the hotel as well. I worked a project in Lech Walensa's carriage house. Lech Walesa was the president in Poland after the wall fell. Very exceptional man. And worked for the famous officer whose plane went down over the Congo and was burned by liquid fuel, only to be taken by natives and healed with mysterious mud. Truly the story of the English patient. You can't make that up. He's written 2 books, an incredible leader, father, husband, and friend. He's written 2 books, and I can't tell you his name tonight. I can tell, but you can Google him and his name will come up. I've been personally given awards and recognized by George Tenet and Mike Pompeo. I've met many past directors. Popped that champagne cork when first female CIA director Gina Haspel was confirmed. Worked alongside some of the most amazing officers involved in operations that are truly unbelievable. I've used the restroom on Air Force One more than once. But back to the lows. Through all of this, especially the last 2 years before my retirement and while traveling, I missed my family. And when I talked about my kids that go to UGA, I call them dogs. You guys probably would understand that. I miss my family even when they were adult college-age students. While processing out of CIA for retirement, my one dog went through trauma from crime in Athens. It remains personal to her and to our family. I am grateful for cameras in the workplace. I am grateful for victims advocates. I am grateful that employers invest in good security cameras and can help speak for the victims. I can tell you that trauma manifests itself in terrible ways, and it often comes out weeks, months, and years later. It can change the trajectory of one's path. Then a few short months later, a dead body of a homeless woman was found behind my dog's balcony. It had been there for 2.5 weeks, and it was discovered by UGA students before police. My dog couldn't sleep. It was more trauma. The idea of a body behind the balcony for 2.5 weeks. This is trauma no different than incoming shelling in a war zone. My other dog experienced a run-in with an aggressive homeless person who, trying to steal something from him, to where my dog jerked his hand away, pretended that my dog assaulted him. The natural feeling is to come to the person's aid, but the gut and well-taught intuition said to walk away from danger. It's a dilemma where it bothers you to your soul, to that sort of altercation and that threat. For all the security training and experience I have had with real enemies, I couldn't keep my dog safe in Athens, Georgia. The trauma from crime for the UGA campus community and for Athens residents is no different than the trauma and fear experienced in my work life. Some countries during COVID gathered bodies on top of each other and burned them in the streets. Dead bodies decaying for 2.5 weeks, brought out of mud, sludge, and water from a green space behind an Athens apartment is just as traumatic. A few weeks after the dead body discovery, and now I'm home and I'm fully retired and trying to find my next path. Actually, I was just taking in fresh air and eating non-rotted vegetables for the first time in months. I see the article in Athens regarding the sanctioning of a homeless encampment where the vote is the week of move-in for UGA students. I felt like it was under our noses. I looked at the location and I started to research. I sent my first letter to UGA President Moorhead with questions. I offered my blah years of services, some of it in physical, technical, and personal security. He never answered me. But he did have UGA Police Chief Dan Silk schedule a phone call. That was the beginning of our ongoing relationship. Dan has a great background with time in war zones as a State Department diplomatic security officer, a group that is near and dear to my heart. He is attuned to cutting edge security, but he didn't really want my help with benchmarking. They were pretty confident, and they should be, that security on campus appeared satisfactory statistically on charts. Never mind things like human trafficking doesn't even have its own category, which later in the year we find out could be useful to track. But there's always improvements that can be made in safety and security. And so always remains accessible and introduced me to UGA Outreach, Allison Mapula. As I was doing this, and Cindy mentioned, more and more parents were commenting on homelessness and crime experiences on the UGA parent page. We splintered off, we created UGA Parents for Safety Security, a closed and safe place for UGA parents to talk. This is where Cindy Furman, a game changer, a word, a phrase you will hear a lot today. That's where we met. And we also had another out-of-state parent who was on board with providing data. We grew to 3,000 people with past and recent stories and even crime scene photos that parents wanted to share. There were experiences of stabbings, rapes, stalking, tracking female students' cars, attempted abductions, following female students in vehicles, aggressively following male students into off-campus housing with 6 people in a car, and criminal behavior timed to hurls and tied to gangs in Athens. Athens had a horrific fall of 2021. That never really stopped. We had an alleged human trafficker arrested in the classroom in a UGA facility. We had 6 armed robberies occur one block from campus between 11:45 and 12:10 in a single evening. We had 2 FBI stings, now I believe there's 3, to net gang members and associates. Plus ACC police did arrests on their own, over 100 in a year. Actually, that's over 110 months. My God, they confiscated a landmine. That's a war zone. Fentanyl arrests this summer, enough to kill 2,000 people. We had a shooting in a crowd 1 block from campus. We had a pistol put to a UGA student's chest in a threatening manner. My dog had a suspected trafficked underage girl waltz into her apartment and go for her refrigerator. Her behavior started becoming erratic. My dog and her roommates, their intuition said somebody was out there waiting for that young girl, and they were scared. Students deal with aggressive homeless people at Athens grocery stores. They beat on their windows and they get in their personal space. 2 more dead bodies are found. One again at the green space behind my dog's apartment, and another in an alleyway in downtown Athens. ODs spiked this spring in the homeless population. Nonprofit volunteers bragging online how they showed college students how to use safely at the brick and mortar needle exchange establishment to include use of Narcan. The local DA weighs in on this discussion to give her thanks and appreciation. The state AG calls out the new local DA for cherry-picking prosecutions. The local DA publishes a summary that shows her stance as light on crime. This year, UGA parents added fentanyl test strips and Narcan to the dorm packing list. A new drug coming into the homeless community called Tranq that can't be detected by fentanyl strips. Fentanyl is now laced in cannabis and Adderall, two drugs of choice by even the best-intentioned student. There are more stories than we have time for with aggressive homeless and panhandling population. We hear about Athens businesses where damage is done to their businesses and their restrooms. It's starting to sound like an episode out of The Walking Dead. In UGA, homeless are found in public buildings like the library. It's reported in our group a possible homeless person in a UGA dorm. There's a woman who sleeps on a bridge near Willow Avenue every day and night who someone puts a reflective blanket on her. She remained there motionless for days while joggers went around her. We had to ask someone to see if there was movement to make sure she was alive. And then 2 weeks ago, a shooting outside the Clayton Social Club. It was confirmed gang-related, where students fled out the back door. A person took a bullet to the leg, and the shooter was not apprehended immediately. Other businesses close by barricaded other students in until there was an all clear. This was 11 p.m. on a Thursday. A suspicious car affiliated with this incident is found with high-power weapons, ammunition, money, and drugs. In fear, Uber drivers cancel students' requests for rides out of the area. Love how that the local press wrote the story as if this was the first time gang activity has come to the downtown area. I believe there were 2 more shootings after this one. That's nonsense. The following week was another shooting in the same area close to the 1785 Club, where students know this club is frequented by gangs. Where is real investigative journalism in Athens, in Georgia, in the country? Athens should be blown out of the water nationally for the city it has become. This year, it ranked #1 in Southern Living magazine for most quaint college town. There's no town and gown atmosphere in Athens, Georgia. This isn't quaint. Athens is a dangerous city seems to be the hidden secret. That homeless for many counties is supported in Athens, and it has disproportionate number of gang members and associates. And services in Athens for the homeless is becoming a beast of an industry. Early on, and within what I just described, Cindy and I and another parent began researching on what we could do with where we were at. We identified gaps on campus compared with other universities. Blue lights, robust safe ride program, escorts, safety advisory boards, and beginnings of establishing a safe zone with expanded jurisdictions. Informally, we built a consortium with other universities like the University of Texas and Ohio State mainly. We connected with safehorns.org on the University of Texas campus in Austin. SafeHorns, doing this for 7 years, became the model for us. We hosted their president to Athens to speak at a grassroots community group presentation in June. She told the story of Erica Weiser, a UT student, a dancer, young student. She was raped and murdered by a homeless person, dropped off into Austin by another county's law enforcement officer. That homeless person lived under their stadium. Could you imagine a rapist and a murderer living under Sanford Stadium? I'm tired of hearing people's disbelief that it can actually happen. Tell that to Ms. Weiser's family today. The SafeHorns president presentation, and hopefully our presentation that night, influenced the state and local legislators in the room to do something now with the positions that they hold. We continue to build relationships with students, business owners, anyone that share our beliefs to enhance safety and security on and off campus. Our role continued to see us pushing and pushing for good programs against gaps we saw on campus. We had the blueprints, we had the contacts, We just wanted UGA to invest. We weren't getting far. Always cordial exchanges and sharing, but we weren't seeing results. We especially wanted to see a robust Safe Ride program that was university owned and included point-to-point transit. There were many successful programs at other universities to draw from. With no concrete progress, more and more incidents occurring, we considered an effective billboard campaign that Ohio State did to nationally expose crime in Columbus, Ohio, and the Ohio State campus community. Their first billboard said, "College should not be a crime scene. OSU, protect our kids." We decided not to go this route. We continue to believe in UGA doing the right things. Not to say we didn't have some great creative ideas to push harder, but we stayed steadfast on collaboration. UGA engaged with us through UGA Chief Silk, and we worked back and forth, agreeing to at least get us a good start with the Safe Ride program. Granted, we sent them blueprints of successful university-owned Safe Ride programs that extend into off-campus housing, and even the notable student-led nonprofit Designated Dogs, you guys might have heard of them, partnering with us to find the right program that students wanted. So UGA, they commit $8.5 million last fall on safety and security initiatives. We're really happy, this is a great start, but we were disappointed. We were disappointed with the Lyft discount coupon as a Safe Ride program, but we'll continue to work for a more robust university-owned program and more point-to-point transit opportunities. UGA student, Ari Zars, a good friend of my dog, was killed by a hit-and-run driver near the Mark. UGA's new Safe Ride program continues to underserve the UGA campus community. We will keep working. I'd like to bring up that I just learned about a year and a half ago, a young man by the name of Knox Witten was a UGA student struck by a hit-and-run driver. The driver of the car takes off and with her mother and her stepfather burn the car, and then they call it in as stolen. The young man was on the side of the road. If aid would have been rendered, he probably would have not succumbed to his injuries. That woman got 17 years, 10 years probation, 7 years in prison. And I believe that the stepfather and mother got 3.5 years, pretty much time served, and the rest probation. So again, if there was a robust Safe Ride program, perhaps those 2 lives could be saved. Cindy is a proud UGA alum, and now my 2 dogs are too. UGA is a big institution. They're now national champions, and that's awesome. I love that. They have a swanky in-house steak restaurant for their players. Very cool. They obviously support good programs. We just want them to prioritize cutting-edge safety and security programs on and off campus. We also believe that Athens City Challenges are UGA's challenges too. They have qualified people to come up with good programs. We don't need to be doing all the work for them, especially in safety and security. They are hardworking, I believe they care, and we believe in them. They have made some progress, limiting hours in public UGA buildings to combat the homeless from harassing students. They continue to expand their mobile Live Safe app, which is wonderful, but not everything. They do a fantastic job supporting Sanford Stadium and the beast of a security effort that it is to keep tens of thousands of people safe on game day. UGA Police Chief Silk does a great job training his team on wellness, resiliency, very much needed for morale in their line of work, and also with engaging the homeless and the panhandling populations. They have a great relationship with ACC Police, and they work in collaboration. The chief continues to indulge us. He's always accessible. I do hope he's studying our blueprints, like Safe Zone and Ambassador Program, like he said he has been doing. He certainly knows we told him, and we want a university-led safety strategy working committee with our participation. What we weren't prepared for as a working group and a nonprofit was the politics. Our programs cross over into the downtown area and other areas that support the campus community. Off-campus housing, businesses, place of internships, places of employment. Wow. I have been back and forth from overseas for the last 3 years, and I was naive to the polarizing and divisive local government that works against safety and security infrastructure. We weren't going to get anywhere with our initiatives unless reasonable-minded people who care about safety and security and about UGA are in office. How can anyone argue safety and security? Please understand that some of our program ideas fall in line with reimagining policing. Ambassador program is compassionate outreach to the homeless. Enhanced cameras for intervention, not just investigation, means less boots on the ground for police. Multi-house priming accreditation means off-campus apartment owners invest in environmental design security, a wonderful deterrent. And it means unarmed mobile patrols for off-campus housing. Blue lights, call boxes mean less boots on the ground, another wonderful deterrent. Escorts and robust safe ride programs mean using electric vehicles, if you want to be very cutting edge. So we are green and we're reducing risk. Safe zone means increased penalties for egregious crimes within a zone, and it's a deterrent. All these programs are reimagined policing. People worry about surveillance with some of these programs. Surveillance can be properly used to avoid misuse and infringement on privacy. And if you're not doing anything nefarious, why is one worried about surveillance? It all sounds so great and expensive, right? Don't forget about that new steakhouse restaurant for football players. As Colin Powell used to say, it can be done. In research, I was struck by hearing a city commissioner vote no on important camera fiber infrastructure proposal by UGA. Well, the proposal was by UGA for this infrastructure. This would be at no expense to Athens and shared with ACC Police for Safety. Majority city commissioners tabled the proposal. One commissioner says, and I quote, "I'm disinclined to vote for anything for UGA until there is Linen-Town redress, affordable housing, and a living wage. Not sure why she can't compartment her thinking. This is a safety and security issue." UGA retracts the proposal and sends an official letter of disappointment that cites citizens' risk to safety without this fiber and cameras. A few weeks later, this area has 6 armed robberies and shooting into a crowd, and the first of more than one FBI gang task force arrests, Operation Tourniquet. ACC government just recently passed the agenda item to accept $250,000 from UGA for safety and security initiatives. UGA is at the table. We look forward to renewed energy to work in collaboration for what's best for UGA campus community and for the Athens community. Cindy and I had the privilege to meet with past ACC Chief Spruill, Cleveland Spruill, who resigned. Don't know the details, but love his stance on crime. Love the written argument he wrote in the press regarding some commissioners, I think it was just one commissioner, inclined to vote no on federal gang task force money. Later I heard he was reprimanded. His piece on the subject was focused on saving the young people in these communities where gangs impact. It was excellent. But who in the world votes against federal gang task force money to combat gangs in a city with a gang problem? That's not reasonable. Every community in Athens wants safety for their families. Fortunately, the ACC interim police chief Salters never skipped a beat with continuing efforts to combat gangs in Athens. More hard work and more arrests by his team since Spruill left. And please understand that the majority of gang members and associates are nationally affiliated. He is building and executing an effective law enforcement team, and like UGA Police Chief Silk, he indulges us and studies our programs we want when we send him blueprints like multi-housing crime accreditation and safe zone. We know good things are going to come out of that partnership. Athens has an amazing amount of game changers in this community that are dedicated their lives full-time, well, it's turned into full-time, I think for many, to find certain full-time for us, it feels like, for homelessness and crime in Athens. We are so lucky to partner with them and with you. Many of you have raised your kids already. You built your successful businesses and careers, and on to helping support your grandkids. Your work on this effort is inspiring. You still believe in UGA, some are even alumni, and you find yourselves leveraging your good names and maybe even your money to push on these matters. Hey, even in the CIA, it's all about the means to get to the end, right? Same thing. This may be the most important work you've ever done. This effort today, right now, fighting for Athens may be your legacy. And that's not about politics. It's about humanity and caring that everyone in this community is living in a safe place for themselves and their families. Protecting students and people in the community is kindness, it's caring, it's common sense, and the right thing to do. Just like the heroes on 9/11 that walked towards the blaze instead of walking away. I've met some amazing Athens residents at grassroots meetings we've had. From the lovely woman who's just a tad older than me, who served in Afghanistan, another game changer, to the lovely restaurant owner who took my hand and passed a donation in support and didn't need to explain. Her and her spouse owning and running a long-time business in the area, more game changers. To the 3,800 parents, students, and community members on our pages who contribute their stories, their money, their ideas, their time, all are game changers. To the data analyst who puts together a data-driven consultants product on the homeless that leads to the best decisions, an incredible trailblazer. For the current and incoming city commissioners who are open-minded and already have plans, future trailblazers. To a business owner who is very close to campus, who trains his employees to be compassionate and to de-escalate with the homeless, definite game changer. I can list many more in this room probably that are game changers, like a few people who stood up and talked at the last city commissioners meeting and whose executive presence and persuasion made impact, and it did make impact. So how can others be game changers like them if you're just not sure how to start? You know, the start of my presentation was a lot of eyes. I did this and I did that. Much of that is because this is my first opportunity to talk out loud about my work. Thanks for indulging. But much of it really is about the eyes. All of you as individuals and what you can do from where you're at. And this is why I wish Houston Gaines was still here. I can give them some advice too. I live 2 hours away and I'm a past intel officer, and this is what I can do. Cindy lives hours away, 2 hours as well, and this is what she can do from where she's at. Let me give you some ideas, and if all collectively were done, Athens would be transformed. Vote based on safety and security. Send emails to decision makers. Give time or money, little or a lot. Pray. Embrace, talk, and work in a nonpartisan way with the same goals of safety and security. Support your local businesses. Crime and homelessness hurts their businesses. Make your space, your dorm, your home, your apartment, your business as beautiful and inviting as you can. Take pride in Athens no matter what, even when you keep getting disappointed. Be kind and pray for those on the streets, but be cautious. Take personal security seriously and lower your risk. Don't stop living your lives because you are fearful. Keep demanding changes. Support law enforcement. Support professionals in the mental health and substance abuse disorder occupations. They are stressed. If you are a legislator, know the key to you winning your next election is if you have a strong safety and security platform. It's the game changer. It's that simple. I am the profile of what will win elections for candidates. I tell you, not just because I work this project. My sole concern that keeps me up at night is safety and security, as well as all of our 3,800 on our pages. No matter a person like me and what my politics may be, more and more will pull that lever or hit that button or whatever we do these days. I've been overseas, but pull that lever, insert the card for safety and security-minded candidates. Republicans in particular, you risk so many undecided voters pulling a different lever this election time over the opposition's emphasis on abortion. I'm not going to talk about that, it's way too divisive. But if a candidate, above all else, emphasizes safety and security and data-driven long-term solutions to homelessness within that, the lever will go their way. All parents and most citizens prioritize that today, and a candidate is sure to win. If you can't take any action on this list for whatever reason, raise your kids and/or live your life with good values and prioritize kindness over success. This is a way to change the world one good citizen at a time. So take action from wherever you are at and with whatever you can do. You don't have to be in shades and a trench coat. But the future for Athens and for the UGA campus will be a lot brighter with everyone's talents, their diverse backgrounds, and efforts. We have to do whatever we can to reduce risk to trauma, and we have to do it now. Thank you, and go Dogs.